Today's 49ers report is presented by Manscaped. The Niners may have dropped the ball with Trey Lance. Don't drop the ball with your own balls. Get hooked up with Manscaped, the leader in below-the-waist men's grooming products. Get 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com/49ers. Promo code 49ers for that deal to apply. All right, obviously on today's show, we're going to talk about the aforementioned Trey Lance because Lance isn't just one of the most popular storylines that's being discussed in the National Football League. This is one of the hottest topics across all of sports right now. So what else do you think that we're going to talk about? And you look at what transpired on Wednesday, and this is really the timeline of events. And this goes to show you how San Francisco dropped the ball with this Lance situation. First of all, it's leaked by Tom Pelissero and Ian Rappaport that Sam Darnold is going to be Brock Purdy's backup. And as we found out later, Kyle Shanahan met with Trey Lance earlier Wednesday morning, and he gave him the news that he was going to be QB3. After that, Lance is not at practice. Kyle Shanahan gave him an opportunity to not go to practice. It was going to be a light day, and that would give him the opportunity to really get his thoughts together. But then, after Lance is not spotted at practice, and after it's leaked, after San Francisco did not want this information to be leaked, that Darnold was going to be QB2, Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch don't talk to the media. And I don't care if some of you are saying, well, why should they talk to the media about the third-string quarterback? He's a former third overall pick. This is a massive story. And for him to be QB3 and relegated to the third-string spot and Sam Darnold to be Brock Purdy's backup, it's a massive story, considering all you gave up to trade up to take Trey Lance, the player that he is, and the volume and the weight of this story. So you want to hear from the leaders of a business after a monumental business decision. But Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch don't speak with the media after practice. Instead, they make Fred Warner and Javon Hargrave answer questions about Lance, putting them, two of your highest paid players and two of your team leaders, in a very uncomfortable, and let's be frank, unfair situation. And then Kyle Shanahan, he doesn't do an interview with the media. He does a pre-recorded interview with KNBR in which they asked him questions about Lance being relegated to QB3, but some softball questions in there, and a live interview much different than a pre-recorded interview. And this all goes to show you the lack of leadership, in my opinion, from San Francisco. And it's not a good look for the Niners. Yes, San Francisco is still a Super Bowl contender. To have drama around your third-string quarterback is not ideal. And I can understand they want to nip this in the bud. But you made the mistake of moving up to take Lance. He clearly isn't the player that you envision him being. He's clearly a lot more raw than you thought he was going to be, and you messed this pick up. This will probably go down as the worst trade in the history of the San Francisco 49ers. So just come out and own it. Take accountability and be leaders. San Francisco didn't do that. And the problem here is that everybody in the national media, local media, everywhere is talking about the San Francisco 49ers and how they've handled this situation poorly. And San Francisco, as an organization, had a chance to own this. They had an opportunity to control the narrative. They didn't. Instead, Kyle Shanahan spoke with the media on Tuesday. He was asked about who was going to be QB2, and he said, yeah, we might switch that off back and forth between Darnold and Lance, but we haven't decided yet. You clearly had your mind made up because you didn't make up your mind after a practice. So for the Niners here, they created this drama, and now they have to deal with the problem that could have been avoided all along. And if they're complaining about taking all this heat, they are to blame themselves. Shanahan could address this on Tuesday. This didn't have to get leaked to the media. They could have come out and they could have discussed this. They could have handled it by themselves, and they did not. Now, John Lynch, with what he said, this is pretty telling. Never did we think all of that would get out. Things don't stay quiet for long in today's world, and the next thing you know, everything that transpired yesterday transpired. That is kind of a tone-deaf comment from John Lynch right there. We didn't expect this to get out. This is not how well businesses operate. And it's pretty wild that San Francisco has made it to 3 NFC championship games in the last 4 years, and they've had all of this organizational success given all of the drama that has followed this organization over the last few years. And you didn't think this was going to get out. You didn't think that Trey Lance was going to be upset. Trey Lance or his agent probably leaked this information so that they could work on a trade because they're done with all of this. They haven't been given ample opportunities for Lance to win the QB2 role. And of course, the starting role was going to go to Brock Purdy. But going into the offseason, Lance even said, all I want is an opportunity to compete. And the Niners' actions over the last week or two with starting Sam Darnold in the second preseason game, and then after Lance had gone 8 of 10 in his last 2 drives, 2 scoring drives to help you win that second preseason game, you're giving Sam Darnold more snaps than Trey Lance in the preseason. So they're probably just done and tired of all this drama, so they leaked it. And what's interesting, too, is that Trey Lance and Sam Darnold both share the same agent. They're both members of CAA, so that's an interesting element in this as well. Now, Shanahan did say that he gave Lance the day off because he was visibly upset. Did Shanahan not think that Lance wouldn't be upset or was going to be upset? Like, of course he was going to be upset, right? You're naming him QB3. Sam Darnold is beating him out as a competitor. I would be ticked off as well. And can you imagine if San Francisco made this move to trade up for Trey Lance, number 3 overall pick? They traded 3 picks in order to get him, and they were a bad football team? If they were a bad football team without the success that I talked about and alluded to just moments ago, Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch would be on the hot seat. It would be an absolute disaster if they whiffed on Lance and were a bad football team. The only reason this isn't even an even bigger story is the fact that San Francisco has been a successful organization. But look at the players that were drafted after Trey Lance. San Francisco has to own up to the fact that they swung and missed. And until they do, people are going to continue to talk because you could have had any of these players on the screen if you didn't take Lance. Kyle Pitts, Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle, Penei Sewell, J.C. Horn, Patrick Surtain, Devontae Smith, Justin Fields, Micah Parsons, and Rashawn Slater. You could have had those players if you didn't move up for Trey Lance. You missed in your evaluation. And now it's time for you to admit that you missed and that you've also mishandled this entire circumstance and situation as well. Now, coming up next on the show, is Trey Lance going to get traded? If he does, where? We'll talk about that. Also, does he have a future with the San Francisco 49ers? Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch seem to think that he does, but we'll get into that as well. First off, today's show is presented by Manscaped. Get 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com/49ers. Hopefully Brock Purdy can ball out, and hopefully you can ball out with Manscaped, because if he doesn't ball out, then the Niners have massive question marks at the quarterback position, but there are no question marks when it comes to the best men's grooming products in the game, and that is all brought to you by Manscaped. With summer here in full swing, I want to take a second to talk about self-care. When it comes to making an impression, proper grooming is essential to looking and feeling your best when you walk into a room. That's why the sponsor of today's show, Manscaped, is committed to helping men around the world walk and talk with some swagger this summer with the best grooming tools on the market. Have them join the 8 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped and enjoy this offer, 20% off and free shipping with the code 49ers. Don't neglect your beautiful self and get right this summer with Manscaped. For the sleekest version of yourself, Manscaped has you covered from head to toe, starting with their brand new Beard Hedger trimmer. And with one guard, 20 adjustable lengths, this device is the perfect travel companion fit to take care of your mane wherever you are. And they also have a bunch of great products out there. The Lawnmower 4.0 will get you cleaned up below the waist, on your face, chest, back, of course, change the blades as well. Check them out. I promise you won't be disappointed. Support the show by using that code 49ers. We'll put that link in the comment section and in the description of this video. As for what Adam Schefter had to say about Trey Lance and his future, whether it be as a trade candidate or as a member of the San Francisco 49ers, I think the 49ers look to see if they can find a home for him. They're not looking for very much. They honestly, truly would like to put him in a situation where he can shine and excel because they do believe that he's made improvements. Now, Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch did mention that they would like to have him on the team, and they even envision Trey Lance being on the team. But they also both said in separate interviews that they would want to do what's best for Trey Lance, and they will do best by him in looking for some opportunities out there. But with what Adam Schefter said and the verbiage there, that kind of tells me there's no real quality offer out there. And how could there be a good offer out there for a guy who you took at number 3 overall, right? The best offer you can get is probably a mid-round pick at best, if not a late-round pick. So that tells me not really an offer out there, but it's best, I think, for Lance to go somewhere else where he can just get a fresh start. Free himself of this drama, free himself of this trail that's followed him where he's been so talked about in a national circle for a guy who's only played 4 NFL starts so far and has a combined 21 starts going all the way back to 2019. But the clear destination that keeps getting brought up is the Minnesota Vikings. They've been talked about as a trade partner for Trey Lance for several months now. We're talking about going all the way back to the earlier portion of this calendar year, and we even talked about that at the time. And why it kind of makes sense, Trey Lance grew up in Minnesota. The Vikings and Niners had conversations about Lance multiple times, according to reports. They just couldn't get a deal done. And Kirk Cousins is in the final year of his deal. So Minnesota did not give Kirk Cousins that contract extension. They clearly are worried about whether or not they want to give him that much money on a multi-year deal because they're not sure if he's that guy. And they're going to see how this year goes. If this year does not go according to plan, if Minnesota's a bad team, Kirk Cousins doesn't play well, they come up short in the playoffs once again, could they hit that reset button under a young head coach in Kevin O'Connell and decide to bring in a young quarterback who they can restart with, who's still affordable somewhat on a rookie contract, and bring in a young player that they can mold a little bit? What's interesting, though, is that Shanahan did say that Lance will play on Friday. If the Niners want to trade Trey Lance, though, does it make sense for him to play on Friday? Because if he gets hurt, then you're not going to be able to trade him because nobody's going to trade for damaged goods there. So that's an interesting element here from that standpoint, but also from the standpoint of it's going to be very awkward for Trey Lance to be on the field because Brock Purdy is going to start. Starters are expected to get some leeway. We'll be doing a watch party for the game right here, so make sure you stay tuned here on the Niners Report for that. Sam Darnold's going to come in after that, and then Trey Lance after that. So all of this awkwardness is going to be heavy on the minds of Kyle, the organization, but also for Trey Lance as well. If a trade doesn't happen up until that preseason game, Lance playing on Friday night, it's going to cause even more drama for this organization and for him. So what's your one-word reaction to this Lance situation? Let me know down in the comment section. Sound off with what you think down below. Sorry for the second consecutive day on the Niners Report. I sound like absolute shit. I've been sick the last couple of days, trying to battle through it, but thanks for being here and supporting the show.